Hello everyone. Today we have a new episode. We are going to talk about perspectives as well. It's going to be a continuous episode and recap about what we have covered in the last session. So in the last session, as you remember, we talked about 1-point perspective and 2-point perspectives as well. 3-point perspectives, this is something we are going to cover afterwards, like in the upcoming sessions, because 3-point perspective is kind of unique and special in compared to these two most common ones, 1 and 2. So just a quick recap as we saw in the last session. So we talked about how to use 1-point perspective to draw very simple table or very simple couch as you see here. And we also took another example, drawing table, very simple table, and a bunch of draw in top of it, as you see, using the 2-point perspectives. And I'm gonna link this episode, of course, in this section, in this video as well. You're gonna find it at the end of this video, so feel free to check it out if you missed it or if you didn't watch it yet, which is gonna be very helpful for you, in my opinion. So today we are going to focus on the 1-point perspective, but we are going to take a little bit more complex examples than what we have covered in the last session, like simple table or couch. So today we are going to try to draw an exterior house and interior room. So let's see how far we can get. So let's start first with the exterior house, and if times allows it, we can start with the room as well. If not, then maybe we can separate it into 2 sessions. So let's see. So as we said, today we are going to take our focus on the 1-point perspective, okay? And yeah, so a house can be considered as a little bit more complex object in compared to like a simple table or simple couch or simple book, you know. So a house, as you know, as you have seen it in probably like books or kids' book, a house looks pretty much like this, less or more, you know, more or less, sorry. So but now we are going to use the 1-point perspective to draw a proper house with the right proportions, with the right angles and accurate size as well. So as we talked about in the last sessions, 1-point perspective uses 1 point, exactly as the name entails. So this is our vanishing point, okay? So as we said before, the 1-point perspective uses only one vanishing point. So, and all lines in your object will be aligned and starting and ending at this very same point. So let's say our house is gonna be around here, okay? Approximately. Yeah, why I'm drawing a circle, not too hard, I'm not very much pressing on my pen, just to give you an overview or to give me an idea where my house is gonna be in my scene, okay? So this is our house, approximately the location, and this is our vanishing point. So the very first thing I want to do, yeah, is I want to draw very simple line like this. So once we have this line, let's consider it as the first line that will create our house. So let's say our house starts here and ends here. So we draw, or we put 2 lines, and we can easily now just highlight this line a little bit. Let's consider it as maybe the first line in our house. Okay, so our house start here. So it means we can easily now start or try to define the first wall in our house. Let's put another point here. You will see now where I am heading. So once we put our so the second point here in this location, as you remember, the 1-point perspective uses one vanishing point, but also the vertical and horizontal lines are very necessary. So from these points, we draw our vertical lines and horizontals. So once we have our horizontal line, like this, for example, we can now decide how far my house will be. So for example, this is our wall. And this is the front door of the house. So our door is gonna be here and our window is gonna be here. I'm just like fantasizing here a little bit, you know. It's not, we are not like following any specific size of our house or trying to do or trying to draw a physically accurate house, you know, but we are just trying things around how using 1-point perspective looks like. Yeah, so let's say this is our wall, our first wall, and this is the second wall, where we will be having our door, house door. Okay, so let's say we have now the horizontal line. We draw another point here for the end of the wall, and again we need another line, vertical line, as we said previously. So now let's say we need to define the height of our house. So let's say the height of our house is gonna be like here or here. It doesn't really matter, yeah, but you can just like try to think logically how it might look like, how it might look good, you know, for you. So for me, I would say we can put a point like here, and now as you see, we have this clear wall that actually gives me the right proportion. So as you see, what we have here is the front wall and the side wall. So now we have 1 point, 3 and 4 points. Now again, as we saw in the previous sessions, whenever I have a point, generated point, I connect it with the vanishing point. So let's try to do that here. So once we have this point, we connect it to our vanishing point. And once I do that, it automatically generates a new point for me, which is actually this one. So as you see, we can clearly see now we have kind of like, we started getting the shape of the house, which is the side wall and the front door, or the front wall, sorry. So let's try to highlight it a little bit to give us a little bit more understanding how our house look like. And from there, we need the hood, we need the roof of the ceiling of the house, which is actually this one, right? So to do that is also very simple. So the ceiling is usually, as you see, if I go back to this one, to this example, is usually in the middle of our wall. So the ceiling usually is actually cutting the house exactly into half. See? So based on that, I just put 1 point here and 1 point here, exactly in the middle of this, and I just draw very simple vertical line, connect these 2 points together, and now you can decide by yourself how high your ceiling will be. It might be here, or it might be right here or here. So we cannot make it that high. So let's try to think logically a little bit. So maybe we can put a point here. And now we can easily, once we have this point generated, we can easily connect this one to this one and this one to this one. See? So now we have the shape of the ceiling, right? So now I would say maybe you might be able to guess where this point goes. This point goes again to the vanishing point. So we connect it. Once we do that, it automatically generates this point for me, which is going to be helpful, but we are not going to be really use it, you know. So what we need to do here is actually try to align this line to this one. So this point and this point are creating our ceiling. So this point is going there as to the top part of the ceiling, and this one should do also the same, because logically speaking, this is how the ceiling look like. So if I do this, it's gonna be looking very odd. So the line, my line here, should be actually exactly aligning with this line as well. So I would say, like, with my eyes, I can see it right here. So once I put this point, I just highlight it, and as you see, it looks good and it looks logical. So if I put a point here, for example, yeah, and if I do this, I'm gonna erase it, so don't worry. It's gonna look very odd because it doesn't look nice. So once you wanna try to do that and you don't really know where your line goes, try to align these lines together. So if I try to define the direction of these two lines, I put a pen here, and if I want to do exactly the same direction of this line, I want to put line here. As you see, they are aligned. So if you feel struggle or stuck and you don't really know where your line goes, try to do this, okay? Because this is how logically perspective works. So as you see now, we have very nice looking house with the right proportions. So now we can highlight it a little bit, just to give us kind of a more understanding. How our house looks like, and reduce a little bit of confusion for us, because as you see, we quickly started to have way too many lines, you know. And to reduce the confusion, you can start to highlight the lines that you need from time to time, okay? So now moving to the next point, let's say this is where our door will be, okay? We can put it here as well. It's no big harm, but logically speaking, the way how our house is formed, I can imagine having the house having the door right here and like 2 or 3 windows right here. Okay, so let's try to do that. So the door, as you see here, we have this middle line, which is like super helpful for us. Yeah, so the door, we can start defining the height of the door. It's gonna be like here. You can decide by yourself. You can put it here or a little bit shorter, but it's not gonna be that short, you know, logically speaking. So we can decide to have our door at this height, and we put a dot as well as a point, and we draw a horizontal line. So now it's actually about defining how I set the width of our door. So let's say here, like it starts here and ends here. Once we have these 2 points, we again highlight this line and draw very simple vertical lines down from the top down. Yeah, so once we do that, we simply have our door. So let's say we want to add some thickness. We really want to see the thickness of this wall. So what we simply can do is actually we can connect this point to our vanishing point, and this point again to the vanishing point. Once you do that, you will see what we have now. Once you do that, actually it creates already the depth of the house as we are seeing it, like we are seeing it from outside to the inside. So this will be our floor actually, and this is the interior wall, which is gonna be like way too dark. Yeah, so as you see now, we have our door and we have our floor as well. As you see, we kind of like able to see the inside of the house. So let's try to draw the door as well. So either open or closed. But as you are seeing the inside, so let's try to draw it opened. So taking this point and this point, yeah, we can easily now continue drawing this line and also this line. And let's say our door ends here, we can put points here, and again vertical, and we connect these 2 points together. Of course, once we have the door, this line from the back wall will not be visible, so we can easily now erase it. And as you see, it starts to look like an open door, while we are seeing from the inside as well. So let me try to erase that a little bit more to reduce any confusion, if there is any. So the next step is let's try to draw some windows here. Okay, so windows are also very simple and they uses exactly the same approach as we did for our door. So let's say we want to have 2 windows, okay, like here and here. So once we do that, before doing anything, we need a point to connect this to this vanishing point to tell us where our window will be. So let's use this point, okay, because this point is in a very good location that we can use. So once we connect this line to the vanishing point, which we already have, by the way, this line, yeah, we need another line that tell us where our window will end, because this line is going to be the start of our windows and the bottom line will be the end of our windows. So let's say our windows is gonna be end here at this height, okay, at this height. So I again connect this point to the vanishing point. Once I do that, it automatically creates this line for me. So now I have this line and this line, the top part of the windows and the bottom part of the windows. And now I can easily decide how many windows do I want to have. Yeah, let's say 2. Yeah, so we can easily now draw vertical lines, another vertical lines, another vertical lines. We need 4 because we want to have 2 windows, right? And another lines. So once I do that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 points generated by these crossing lines. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, which are our other 4 points. So once I connect them, as you see, it automatically gives me the windows that we were trying to achieve. And as you see, the windows are in a very good, healthy proportions. They are in a good position, and they just look fine, you know? They look kind of like part of this house. They don't look odd or in a very bad shape or a weird position or a bad proportions, you know? So why? Because we always try to follow this vanishing point and connect everything to this vanishing point. Okay, try to remember that, because this will dramatically help you to keep your form very healthy and in the right, accurate, and good proportions. Try to remember that, okay? So now we have the windows. We can now start to add some more details into the house. Like, for example, let's add some thickness to the windows. For these kind of small details, you don't necessarily need to use the vanishing point. The vanishing point is actually to really keep your general shape, the overall shape, in a healthy proportions. Yeah, but when it comes to adding very small details, like the one I'm doing now, you don't necessarily need to use the vanishing point, you know, because you can judge by yourself how can you make it look nice, right? And the same goes for the door as well. Maybe we can try to draw a door frame as I'm doing here, just to add some more details. As you see, maybe we can just try to add some shading in the interior, just to give us kind of like the feeling that there is something inside, you know, that we are not really able to see. The same goes for this one. Now I can make the floor a little bit darker, just to give me kind of the feeling that it's really the floor, you know. This is the most the darkest part in our shape, you know. Of course, this wall can be a little bit darker, but of course, in this session, we are not talking about shading. When we talk about shading, we're gonna cover the topic from A to Z, starting from very simple shapes into the very, very complex, yeah? But yeah, in each session I'm doing for you, I am trying to move really a little bit slow and step by step, because my sessions are meant to be really for beginners, as much as also for advanced people, by the way, you know. So even advanced people can learn some from my stuff, I guess, I believe, I hope. But yeah, mainly my sessions are meant for beginners who have no knowledge or some knowledge in drawing, you know. So the door as well, we can add some thickness into it just to give us like kind of like more details, you know. The same we can do as well for the ceiling. Let's add some thickness into it. And the same goes for this part as well. I feel too many lines now, but it's okay. It's not bad. We can reduce a little bit to keep our form clean, you know. So as you see now, we have very nice looking in healthy proportion house where nothing looks really odd, everything looks okay, everything looks under control. And starting from having this general shape, we can start to increase more and more and add more and more details, you know. Before doing that, let me just speed up a little bit and try to highlight these lines that I need. I'm gonna try to make it quick. So these are our line. And we can maybe add a little bit more shading here just to understand the shape again. Yeah. And so on. So yeah, as you see here, now we have the house. But yeah, as using one vanishing point doesn't necessarily mean that we are really limited to draw only a house. We can actually keep using this point to extend our scene. What I mean by that is actually to add more components into our scene. Like for example, we can draw, if we want to have a road, right? Road or like street beside this house, I can again use the very same vanishing point. Nothing changes. And I draw very simple line like this. Yeah. And we can draw another line like this. So as you see now, we have two lines. The first line I'm gonna ignore for now because I'm gonna add some more details later on. But let's say we have some like street lights, yeah, beside this house. Or instead of street lights, maybe we can add, yeah, let's take like a sound, for example. Okay, like a sound. So like something like that. Very simple. So using this vanishing point again, we are able to do it. So this is the first line of our sound. And this is the second one, which are the top one and the bottom one. So we need two, right? Both of them are connected to our vanishing point again. Yeah. So drawing the sound is very, very simple, which is actually, after having these two lines, we start to add vertical lines. But once we do that, there is one important rule I want to deliver to you, which is this point is called vanishing point for a reason. Vanishing means, like in English, disappearing, as you know. So vanishing point, it means the closest angle, which is this one. This is the closest to us, right? In this direction. This is the closest point. The closest point is the biggest, and the further I go from the camera, which is our camera here, right? I'm standing here, I'm looking at the house. The further I go far from the camera, components and objects start to vanish, start to disappear. And that's exactly why it's called vanishing point. So what I mean by all of that, so these sounds have a lot of stripes here, right? These stripes are gonna be very big and very visible when I am very close to the camera. So, but when I go further and further far from the camera, they start to really be smaller and vanish gradually. While they start to vanish, the sound is gonna look like, actually, so this is our vanishing point. Let me just explain it here, okay? This is the top part and this is the second part, which is the top bottom part. So the sound are gonna be looking like pretty much like this. Why this distance are decreasing? The distance is decreasing actually because the distance here that our human eye is able to capture is much bigger than this distance, because the human eye, when it comes to anatomy, of course I'm not going to deep dive into that because there is too much technical details, but if I want to explain it in very simple way, so the human eye is able to capture a distance in a very close distance, like to the closer objects, much better in compared to far objects. So it means the further your object, so the object goes from the human eye, the more difficult it gets for the human eye to really capture this. And that's why exactly these objects start to really fade out slowly and gradually, because all of them are directed to this very same point. Try it out. If you go out and try to look at a very far point of view, wherever you are, on street or anywhere, it actually applies literally everywhere, because perspectives are everywhere. You just have to look for it, you know, and you will find it once you really understand this. So again, back to our sound. So I didn't want to continue drawing the sound before explaining it, so thank you for bearing with me. So this is our sound. As I said, they start big and they start to vanish slowly. So once they start to vanish, I take that into consideration and I gradually start to really apply that by making the distance closer and closer and closer and closer. So, which actually gives us very nice sounds, as you see. So now we have the main proportions of these sounds. Now we can add some more details to make it like looks nice, as you see. Of course, the small details are not going to be visible from this distance because this point is way too far now from us. It's not really going to be that visible, right? So now we have the sounds, and now we can connect these points together to create kind of like very nice looking sound here. So I'm gonna try to speed it up a little bit. And so on and so on. Of course, I can add as much details as I want. Like, for example, I can add some thickness here. I'm not gonna apply that to everywhere, otherwise it's gonna be very time consuming. For the sake of this video, you know. And so on and so forth. The same goes as well for this thickness. So as I said, you can, once you have the general overall objects correct and in the right proportions, physically accurate and correct, then it gets much more easier to add more details, more and more. And the opposite actually exactly the same. What I mean by that is, if your house and your sound, everything here looks from the very beginning odd and doesn't look correct, it's gonna be very difficult to fix afterwards. And especially if you already have details and shadows and maybe shading and everything, you know, it's gonna be very difficult to fix. So from the very beginning, your proportions needs to be correct. So I recommend you to give more time and a little bit pay more attention to have the right proportions from the beginning, because this will make your life much easier to finalize your drawing. Yeah, trust me on this. This is very important. At the very beginning is very important to have the right proportions. Yeah. So after having the sounds, we can maybe have, again, use this vanishing point, and we can maybe have some trees over here. The trees as well are going to start big and start to be smaller and smaller the closer we go to this vanishing point. I can also use these lines, by the way, because it keeps my tree shapes under control, you know. So I'm trying to include these trees under this line. I don't go over it, and this will automatically create the very accurate tree shapes, you know. So as you see here. Then smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You can have some grass here just randomly to make our scene looks nice. And now we can just start to highlight things a little bit. Just a little bit of grass here to make it looks nice. Of course, today we are not talking about drawing trees per se, but yeah, I'm just, for the sake of the purpose of this video, which is the 1-point perspective, I'm just like showing you that we can draw everything, literally everything, using as with the help of this vanishing point. Because it's very important to be aware of this, you know. And yeah, afterwards you start to try to maybe apply things and try different scene, not necessarily a house, maybe like interior room or exterior house or building, for example, like a whole building. It's really up to you. Of course, in my sessions, I'm gonna try to include as much examples as I can, but of course we cannot draw like everything. You know, this will be impossible, but I am just trying to cover as much different examples as I can, you know, and this will automatically gives you the option to really be able to draw anything you want. So now I'm not drawing anything new, I'm just like highlighting the shape for you to make it more visible, you know. Maybe you can make it a little bit darker because it's really the interior here. It shouldn't be that bright. And again, we are not talking about shading. I promise you, we will have a separate session, maybe different session, one is not enough, where we are going to talk about shading, accurate shading and correct shading in term when it comes to perspective. So we will have like light directions and how the light direction affects our surfaces and so on and so on. Of course, I'm not gonna talk about it now, but we are going to cover it. I promise you that, yeah. Because lighting is, in my opinion, one of the most important components in your drawing. Yeah. Because lighting is actually what makes your drawing alive, vital, you know. Drawing is very, very important for any drawing. Shading is very, very important for any drawing. It doesn't matter if you are drawing with pencils, with coal, with watercolor, with oil painting. Lighting is everything, yeah. Lighting is everything. It's very, very, very important. So we can now add some more details, like a brick or like a wood, sorry, not brick, like a wood feeling. To prove you that, yeah, again, once we have the right proportions, you can add as much details as you want and nothing will go wrong, because you do have from the very beginning your main shape in the right proportions, which makes your life much, much easier, you know. And that's why I was trying to really express how important it is to have everything right from the very beginning. Maybe we can add some more details here. Again, this point goes to the vanishing point. As I said, all points needs to align with this one, because this is our main point. And this goes to horizontal. And now we add some more details to make it looks nice. Maybe we can highlight again this, because I still don't feel its interior, you know? So we need to have this feeling. Just to make it a little bit darker, it's okay. Yeah, now it's okay. And the door maybe a little bit. And so on and so on. So if I want to continue drawing these trees like behind or like from this angle, like on the right side of the house, what I need to do is actually to continue drawing this line, because this actually goes to the directly to the vanishing point. So this line is actually gonna be the limit or the height of the biggest tree that we have here. And yes, the tree, if we want to draw a tree here, yeah, it's gonna look that big. Why? Because again, as we said here in the sound about the sound, the tree here is very, very close to us in compared to this tree, and that's why it looks much, much bigger. And we need to take that into consideration. And how we take that into consideration? By again drawing a line from the vanishing point up, and wherever my line here is generated, this is the top part of my tree, and this is the limitation or the height of my tree, and I should follow that. I'm not gonna draw the tree here, otherwise it's gonna be way too many components in our scene. So I'm gonna compromise on this for this one. Maybe we can do a little bit of highlighting here, just to understand that it's a different surface in compared to this one. But of course, you don't necessarily have to start to shade here per se. You can try it, of course, but as I said, shading is going to be in separate session. We are going to talk about it in details and to really understand it, how to do it properly. Okay, what light source means, what light source affects and influences the surfaces, how surfaces react to light sources, and so on and so on. Like lighting is a whole different word, it's completely different word. It is a big part of drawing, yes, but it takes months and months and maybe years. Like some artists really spend their whole life on drawing, on lighting, you know, like Rembrandt, for example, which is one of my favorite artists all time. Of course, he drew very, very nice painting. Of course, you can search, look him up, you know, on internet, but his main focus was actually lighting. Yeah, his main focus was lighting. Of course, oil painting, and yeah. So if you see his painting, you can clearly see he loved lighting, and lighting was the main topic and the main niche in his drawings. Yeah, which is fascinating in my opinion, because I do like lightings. Yeah, it's very, very nice, and this is actually what makes your painting alive and vital, you know. Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can add, like for example, very simple extension of our scene. Maybe we can, if we want to draw like a street here, okay, this is like very small street beside the house, but if we want to like really draw street here, you know, again we use this vanishing point. I draw a line like this, and this will be our street. This is like very simply created, as you see. Like I used this vanishing point, I drew a line, and how I decided if my line is going to be here or here or here, this is actually on my own judgment. I just decided that my street is going to be that big. So if I want my street to be a little bit bigger, I can draw a line like this. There is no harm. This is really up to you. Yeah, the most important thing that I said in the last video, and I'm saying now again, is actually to understand how to use this method. This is the most important point. Yeah. So now we have a street. Maybe we can have some sidewalk as well. Yeah, so this is gonna be like the side wall, the sidewalk. Of course, I'm not gonna now add way too much details into it. I'm just like giving you the idea. What can you do with this using one vanishing point? You can also add some like stripes, like these white stripes that you see on street. Honestly, I don't exactly know what they are called in English, but I think stripes, yeah. So the way of doing it, again, I'm gonna use this vanishing point, draw a line, and again, another line, and again, a line, and another line. So now we have these two, right? Now we can draw again. As I said, we need this vertical and horizontal, right? So we draw horizontal again, and this will be our first stripes, which is 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. I connect them together, and this creates automatically our nice stripes with the right proportions. Everything looks nice here, as you see. It just looks correct, you know, it doesn't look odd or anything. And the distance between each stripes I can also judge by myself. Let's say here, this is where our second stripes start, and this is where it ends. And again, I need to consider what we have talked about trees and sound, that the closest to the camera where I stand, which is here, is the biggest, and it starts to fade out and get smaller and smaller the further I go from the camera or closer to this vanishing point. Okay, please take that into consideration. This is very important. Yeah, so now again, like this, then again like this, then again smaller and smaller and smaller. So this is our second stripes, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, which are automatically generated by these lines, and our horizontal, right, as we did here. Exactly the same approach, nothing changes. And the same goes here, 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 and there as well. So 1 4 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. And again, it's gonna look, as you see here, smaller, smaller, and smaller until they are completely vanished and not not visible to the human eye anymore. Try to check it. Try to really to see that in real life. You know what I mean? Like when you go out, and especially if you are like standing on a street or in front of very long buildings, yeah, or very long street, try to see it, because you will see it. You will definitely see it. You will find very far away vanishing point, which is really, really far from you. And when you try to check the shapes or the objects between the vanishing point and your eye, you will clearly see these lines. Actually, try to analyze it. Once you have it, you will understand how to use this. Try to analyze it, because this is very, very important. So now we can just try to speed up a little bit quickly. Just highlight our shapes. Start to look smaller and smaller and smaller until they are completely vanished, as you see. Sorry, we can highlight them a little bit just to make them a little bit different than the street. Just a little bit here, like this. Can highlight the trees, and especially the far one, the one which are really far from us, because you won't be able to see the details of them as much as the one which are closer to you, you know. The sounds that are really, really far from you, they start to look even like dots, like very simple dots, because they are really, really far from you. Once you understand this perspective, this logic, you grasp the technique, and you can literally draw anything you want. Doesn't matter if like a simple house or very complex street that has way too many buildings, and so on and so on. And as you see here, we started using the 1-point perspective. We started to have very simple house without anything, and using the very same point, we started to extend our scene by adding more and more components into our drawing using the very same point. And this caused us no confusion at all, as you see, because everything was proportionally accurate from the beginning, which makes our life much easier to add more and more details. And that's why I want to express that one more time. Try to make your drawing from the very beginning correct, accurate, and in the right proportions, because it does easier, or it does make your life much, much easier, you know. Yeah, I think, yeah, this is it. This is it for today. So let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Of course, I'm gonna answer all questions if there are any. And if you missed the last section or the last session, I'm gonna link the last session or the previous one right at the end of this video. You can find it on the left side of the screen. And yeah, this is it from today. Thank you very much. Try it out, and thank you again. See you next session.